Welcome to the first instance of the Services Roadshow by Base4NFDI, where currently funded basic services pitch themselves in 10 minutes, followed by a non-public Q&A session. Our next basic service to be presented is Knowledge Graph Infrastructure. And the stage is yours.
Great, thank you very much. Great, so welcome everyone. My name is Luzana Rosvinova. I'm part of the team for the Knowledge Graph Infrastructure basic service. And today we will be talking through very briefly what the service is offering, what are our main use cases, how can you get involved, etc. So I will dive straight in with our introduction to what are knowledge graphs and why are they important. So knowledge graphs are an important technology supporting interoperability and enabling data exchange. Essentially, a knowledge graph is a graph-structured knowledge base or a particularly structured database, if you want to think about it that way, in simpler terms, that has to contain a terminology as well as data entities that are interlinked via this terminology. Knowledge graphs are based on semantic web technologies, usually, and they often are used for agile data integration. Knowledge graphs are already widely used by research data producers and managers in Germany, which is why we think it's very important to provide an infrastructure for knowledge graphs. And when we're speaking about usage, I wanted to show where already we have evidence of knowledge graphs being used across the 4 different science areas of the NFDI. And here in the highlighted bullet points, you can see also the consortia that are represented within the team of the KGI base service. So we are happy to have representation across the 4 different areas of science, but we are hoping to expand this representation in the next stages of our service, because we think true interdisciplinarity is quite important, and we think KGI is the right service to support this interdisciplinary data interoperability and integration. So more concretely, what is our service offering? The time slot for these presentations is really short, so I won't be able to dive deeply into every single work package of the service as we are developing it, but I just wanted to give this very brief overview of the overall framework of our service and also what are the core areas. So we have a service hub that is offering a search and query platform. We are also offering a consultancy service that is engaging with members of the broad NFDI community when it comes to deploying or using knowledge graphs. We also have an area dedicated to interoperability, meaning that all of our services within the KGI are designed to be interoperable from the start with various national and international efforts. And last but not least, we also have a dedicated community support package, which doesn't involve what I already mentioned in terms of guidelines and tutorials, but it's more focused on actually feedback from the community. So information for us, how we can improve the service, how we can actually meet real user needs. And this package involves things like surveys, as well as development of showcases that really easily and visually showcase why KGIs can be beneficial for your research endeavors. One thing that I wanted to emphasize, given the short time, but also importance, is I already mentioned several times working with the community, and we are doing this through several angles. So one of the angles is developing realistic use cases, and this has been done with support from the base services team. We have developed a range of personas, sometimes based more or less on real people we've seen in our work across the different consortia representing the service. We have developed quite detailed personas that have different levels of, for example, seniority in their engagement, whether it's in science or research software engineering. We also wanted to go a bit deeper into the individual characteristics of these personas. So every persona has a little bio with like personal interests, etc. But more importantly, for every persona, we developed a range of scenarios for usage, how they might be using our service, what are their pain points, what are their needs. And although I can't go into every single persona, I will just show 1 or 2 examples here. So we wanted to first look a little bit more into our KGI Service Hub offering and how can we meet some use cases there. And one of the core use cases that came up while we were designing the persona for Alina, our first year postdoc, in bioinformatics is a kind of common scenario where she's a scientist interested in general in KG technology, but doesn't have a great overview at the moment. So she needs to be looking for existing knowledge graphs in the domain of bioinformatics. And she basically would like to have a centralized registry. And pain points or where she might get frustrated along her user journey could be, for example, the point where she needs to formulate specific questions in the query interface, and she may be wondering how best to formulate it, especially when she will be tapping into resources she may not have used before. So for such a scenario, we have envisioned the KGI Service Hub to be able to respond. The Service Hub essentially consists of a registry of existing knowledge graphs in NFDI across different consortia. It includes a search and query platform, and very importantly, it includes easy query examples that allow users to get started and then modify further and try to find out the answers to their own questions. We also have easy ways to contribute to this registry, so it's not a closed-off resource, but rather something quite porous and easy to work with for the community. And I wanted to share a very early version of this. Of course, it's a work in progress, so please bear with us. We only started this service a few months ago, so we're in stage of building at the moment, but we already have a Sparkle endpoint that you can go to and query and access some example queries. That contains a basic list of knowledge graphs across the NFDI and is using a basic ontology. We do plan to expand this list significantly over the coming months and to include ontologies such as the NFDI core ontology that will allow easy search across different NFDIs that are already anyway using this ontology. I'll just keep going straight through, but please, any questions, note down in the chat, and we have the 5 minutes afterwards. So another use case that I wanted to highlight, because again, we see it as a very common use case that has come out also in our work before we started the base service, in our work together as a team around the working group knowledge graphs within the section metadata. And that's the use case of deploying your own knowledge graph. And here comes to the rescue our persona Lisa, a junior developer working in a research lab. And Lisa has the task to deploy a knowledge graph. And the usage scenarios here is, first of all, decide which knowledge graph technology to deploy. And in that scenario, it will be quite useful to have an overview of existing tools with clear indications of advantages and disadvantages. And then, of course, a pain point could be when, for example, there isn't enough documentation to support less experienced users of a specific technology. So here we have envisioned several parts of our consulting and guidelines area. For example, providing several tool options to choose from when deploying your own service, not just a single one, providing guidelines docs and deployment pipelines. So actually Ansible pipelines or Docker pipelines that can be taken and deployed on own infrastructure. And of course, we also have a consulting service, which means we're available for one-to-one tutorials and video calls, etc., at point of need for users. Again, disclaimer, we're showing here the guidelines, and the URL is correct, so this is where guidelines will be eventually when they're complete. At the moment, they're still just a work in progress, so we have started adding some of the tools that we want to provide guidelines for, but we'll be expanding these tools. We'll be providing a little bit more comprehensive guidelines as well, and we'll be linking there the automated pipelines that can be used for deployment as well. There's many more use cases I can go into, but in the interest of time, I just want to now get straight into the point of how we would really like to be more engaged with our community. So we already want to invite you to participate in our survey. You can use this handy QR code there to access the survey, and I'll also put it in the chat after the slides are over. The survey will be open until the end of the year. It is very brief and easy to complete, but it will give us a very good idea of how we can develop our service better or over the next 6 or so months remaining from our first phase, and then, of course, later on into the next phases. We also want to encourage everyone to visit the Service Hub. Like I said, it's still quite limited in functionality at the moment, but if you do visit it and if you try it out and if you find any points that you think can be improved already, or if you immediately want to give us some wish list of what you would want to see there, again, feel free to get in touch. And last but not least, as part of our community support package, we are gathering showcases of federation. And by federation, we mean examples where we can produce very useful results to our users when we are tapping into more than one KG. So when we're looking, for example, across knowledge graphs available in NFDI for culture, NFDI for objects, NFDI for memory, where we want to draw a history around a particular object or event or historical personality, where access to multiple heterogeneous knowledge bases would be useful. And we want to develop these showcases together with the community so they represent real and scenarios and provide actually really useful results that can enhance research practice. So if you have ideas for more federation, even if your data is not already in a structured format, is not already in a KG, but you know it would be really useful for your own research use case to federate your data with data from another discipline or from another research institute, feel free to get in touch. And we'll see how we can best help you achieve what you are trying to achieve and how we can showcase that also on the service hub so it can serve as inspiration also to others. Next, I want to look a little bit further ahead, but also connect to what we're doing at the moment. So as I mentioned, we are already developing a variety of use cases, and we're trying to do that as much as possible within the consortia that are already represented within our first team for the first year integration phase. We do hope to expand that later on with more communities and yeah, basically more realistic cases where we can show really strong results that would not have been achieved, for example, without this knowledge graph infrastructure being possible. Another very important point that's connected to our interoperability working area is being present and establishing relevant connections at the European and international level when it comes to standards bodies, but also when it comes to initiatives such as EOS, for example, and we have identified the need to participate more actively in, for example, the opportunity area on metadata and interoperability within the EOS framework. So this is going to be in our roadmap for the next 6 months and onwards if we get also to integration stage. And last but not least, it's very important, of course, to integrate with other relevant base services. We did find the base user conference that happened recently in Berlin very useful in being able to actually talk to other services and come up with a lot of ideas. We have been in discussion since the beginning of KGI with the terminology service. We think the integration there is very straightforward and that's very necessary when it comes to using specific terminologies and ontologies within the KGI infrastructure. But we can also already foresee very useful scenarios for integration with Jupyter notebooks where we are deploying automated pipelines for KG deployment, for example, or with the training service where we want to integrate knowledge graph usage and training on how to use knowledge graphs within this service. PIDs, of course, great that we had this presentation just before us, super important, and you can't really have meaningful KGI without PIDs, so we need to work closely with this service as well. And there are many more use cases we can think of, but we'll probably develop those a little bit further in next phases if we get to those. And I think I'm hoping I'm good with time. I somehow lost track of the clock on my machine, but we're now at the point of yeah, filling out your little quiz. So take a minute to look at that slide. What is the commonly used knowledge graphic query language? Should be an easy one. And lastly, these are our contact infos. So I want to say thanks very much, and I'm open for questions.
Yeah, thank you, Lotsana.